So again, we're going to talk about career paths for business graduates. Really what I want to start off with is talking a little bit more about my background. And it took a long time for me to get to the places that I wanted to go. Currently, I'm the program manager for the Washington Center for Women in Business, which is actually right down the street from you guys. It is in the South Puget Sound Community College, Lacey campus, in the THURSTON Economic Development Council Center for Business and Innovation. And that's a pretty long title there. But, and I'm going to talk to you about what we offer at the THURSTON EDC, but I am the program manager for the Washington Center for Women in Business. I did finish a PhD in 2012 in organizational change and development. Finally, I found my calling, which was working with environmental friendly businesses and helping businesses become more environmentally friendly. That's what my passion is. And so coming into this role at the Washington Center for Women in Business, I'm really interested in working with smaller business because small businesses really are much more environmentally friendly and they're much better for the economy as a whole. They're much more equitable if there's more small businesses. And so that's the kind of the work I'm doing right now. Okay, so let's talk about career paths for business graduates. And again, I'm happy to talk about this because I wish someone would have told me this when I was a graduate. Okay, so I just pulled this from the labor statistics site. And so this is kind of what we're looking at for the next 4 years. It is the top 10 occupations for 16 to 34-year-olds with a bachelor's degree in business by overall projected employment change from 2014 to 24 and median annual wage as of 2015. So the wage is probably about 5 years old here. So you can see right here that the big red bubble are accountants and auditors, okay? And so this is the percentage in growth change. So this is the highest growth career path currently. And it has a pretty decent median salary. It looks like it's right around between $50,000 and $60,000 starting. And so if you look down here, you can see all of the different growth trends for different industries. So managers right here. So managers end up making a little bit more money than accountants and auditors, a little less growth in that arena though. Financial managers over here make the most money and have still some pretty high growth. And so on and so forth. And so you can refer back to the slideshow if you want to look at this. But basically, there are some trends happening, and we'll talk about those as we go through the different career options for you today. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about different career path categories and the jobs in those categories, okay? And so I'm going to give you examples when I can and just talk about, options for. And these are, again, are specific for individuals that are graduating with a business degree. Okay, so some of these career path categories, and these are just the categories, are sales and customer service, finance, education, management and administration, insurance, marketing, human resources, working for the government, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, and then lastly, entrepreneurship. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about entrepreneurship because that's what my interest is. And I think that's a really good option for a lot of business graduates that want to kind of go out on their own. They don't want to have a traditional career. Okay, so first category, sales and customer service. And so I'm originally from Hawaii. I've actually only been here 6 months. And prior to this, I was a college professor. And I taught all the different kinds of management and marketing and business courses. So I had a lot of experience over that in the last 7 years. But my first job when I moved from the island of Hawaii, or the Big Island, to Honolulu was managing an art gallery. And this was my favorite customer that I sold a painting to. I don't know if you recognize him. It's getting to the point where Shaq is probably not as recognizable by the younger folks as he used to be. So anyway, that was one of my starting careers, was an art gallery it was called a director, a gallery director. Okay, so here are some of the jobs you can get as a business graduate in sales and customer service. First job is an account executive. So my friend James works for Expedia. I think everyone's probably heard of Expedia. So what James does in Honolulu and all over the Hawaiian Islands is he goes around and he talks to people with bed and breakfasts, and he tries to get them signed up on the Expedia program. Once he gets them signed up, then he goes and maintains that relationship over the years. So he'll go back and visit, make sure everything's going okay, deal with any issues they're dealing with. So account executive essentially is someone that not only sells product to people, but also maintains a customer relationship. So there's an ongoing relationship there. Another example of an account executive, my uncle worked for Unilever for many, many years. And his last position was a senior account executive for the Ben & Jerry's brand in the Southwest Territory. And so basically what he did, he went around to all the big vendors. So all of the stadiums and things like that that sold Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and he made contacts. He created new accounts, and he also managed accounts that existed, okay? So that's an example of an account executive. Sales representatives. So sales representatives typically have two different types of categories. There's inside sales representatives and there's outside sales representatives. A typical inside sales representative position would be someone that sells cars. And these days, you know, that car sales has a negative moniker, obviously, but car salesmen that do well do make a pretty good living, especially if you're selling, you know what I mean, the popular model of the day. Outside salespeople are people that actually go out physically and knock on people's doors to try to get sales. Both of these types of positions are typically commission-based. And so there's not a lot of guaranteed salary. And so in order to get paid, you have to make sales. And for some people that can be really, you know what I mean, an awesome thing, because it gives you this sort of, you know what I mean, you make as much money as you want to idea. On the other end, for other people, that's not such a great way to live. It's, you know, it can be very stressful, especially when you're not making any sales. So a position for some people, not for everyone. There are a lot of these jobs available typically though. So you'll see that, you know what I mean, that is an option for you for a career. And expanding on that, real estate sales. And so business graduates can become real estate sales agents. You do have to get a real estate license, and that takes about 6 months of additional schooling. Again, can be a very lucrative business on one end. On the other end, when you do start off, you're not going to be, you know, making a lot of money at first. It's one of those things where you have to build up clientele and word of mouth and marketing over time. And so you will definitely have ups and downs in this career. That being said, you can make your own hours, except usually Sundays you have to do the open houses, but you do kind of make your own hours. You're out on the road a lot. You're not stuck in an office typically most of the time. Another career path in the sales and customer service category is customer service specialist. You'll see a lot of these in not just in retail, but for all different kinds of companies. And these are people that either work with customers on the phone or through chat. All websites have that, you know what I mean, chat function now that you can speak to a customer service representative. A lot of these jobs available out there, typically, you know, the hourly rate I'd say is between $16 and $20 an hour. It's a good job to start off with, especially if you start off in a company that you're interested in growing with. This is a good entry level position. And then if there's opportunity for growth in that company into management, that's, you know, that might be a good idea to go and pursue one of these types of customer service specialist jobs. That being said, customers can be difficult to deal with. And trust me, I've dealt with my fair share of customers, literally to the point of people yelling in my face for something that I didn't do at all. And so there are challenges, and it does take quite a deal of patience to deal with some customers. And so if that's, you know, something that, you know, you feel might be a real burden for you, then customer service may not be the way to go. If you do like working with people and helping people, then it is a good career choice. Again, lots of those jobs out there too. Business development managers. Okay, so a business development manager, our business development manager at the Thurston EDC, we call him the butts in seats guy. And so he's the guy that gets the students in the seats for our programs and our trainings and all that stuff. A business development manager is basically a networker. And so he goes out into the community and networks with all different kinds of entities. And so our business development guy, James, he goes out and he talks to all of the chambers of commerce in Thurston County. He talks to all individual businesses. He talks to the city. He talks to, just to everybody he can to get the word out there about other programs that we offer at the Thurston EDC. Again, this is definitely not a job for someone that is shy or an introvert. You have to be an extrovert to do this job, and you have to want to be out there talking to people all the time. If you're the kind of person that is an extrovert, this is a really great job, and you'll be out of the office a lot, just talking to people, telling people about your services, what you do, trying to get that customer development. Okay. Another really common job, and probably one of the most common jobs out there, is retail sales. And depending on the company you're working for, it really depends on the quality of this retail job. And part of my elevator pitches in retail is that I literally have worked for Walmart on one end and Patagonia on the other. And I don't know if you're familiar with Patagonia, but that's a really great company to work for. And it's one of those positions that they treat their retail salespeople really well. They pay them much higher on average. You get health care, you get 401k. The discount is amazing. And so that's one of the positives of working in retail sales and management is you do get, if you're working for a company you like, then you get a really good discount and you get to buy the stuff you like. And so also with retail sales, a lot of times if you're interested in getting into retail management, this is where you start with, is the retail sales. And I think if you can identify a company that you're really interested in working for, something that aligns with your values or your passions, an entry-level retail sales job is not a bad place to start if there is that room for growth. Companies like Patagonia, I just read recently, for every job description and for every job they offer, basically, they get 9,000 applicants. So that's a lot of people competing for jobs at that company because a lot of people want to work there. That being said, companies like Patagonia prefer to promote within. And so if you do find a company that you really want to work for, a lot of times those companies prefer to promote their employees they already have within the system. And so that's how a lot of people stay in Patagonia, and a lot of people don't leave their jobs there, except for me, of course. They stay there because they get treated really well and they get promoted within. Any questions about the sales and customer service category for jobs for business majors? No? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so another category that a lot of business majors end up working in is finance. And so a typical job in finance is a financial planner, and that's someone that works for Edward Jones, for State Farm, things like that. They go and they work with people's personal finances. They create portfolios and work with people to invest their money. Financial planners typically are outside salespeople. And they do work on commission. And so again, the more clientele you get, the more money you make. But if you don't get any clientele, then you typically don't make any money. So it's one of those outside sales positions that can be very lucrative. One of my close friends that I graduated with as a business major at the University of Hawaii, became a financial planner, and now he's a financial analyst, but he's done quite well for himself in terms of the salary that he's been able to earn. But it took him 5 years to build his customer base. And then after that, then he did start making, definitely over, a little over probably about 150,000 a year, somewhere in there. Yeah, so it's pretty lucrative. Financial analysts are people that actually go and look through a company's finance or a person's finance and make sure that they are investing in the proper places. And in many cases, organizations that are finance organizations will have both of these people working for businesses and for individual investors. And so a financial analyst is someone that analyzes the market, sees market trends, looks for changes in things like this right now that's happening that's going to negatively affect the stock market. And so they're going to be moving a lot of that money from high risk stock into lower risk things like bonds. And so that's what a financial analyst does. Accountants. So you don't necessarily have to be a accounting major. You can become a accountant if you are a business major. accountants. There are a lot of accounting jobs out there. If you went to that, remember that first slide, it is a growth industry. And so there are a lot of available accounting positions. Our accountant works with QuickBooks. She does the payroll. She takes all of the accounts payable and pays them. She goes after accounts receivable, takes in money, and then she produces monthly financial statements that explain how the company is doing as a whole, including the cash flow statement, which is the primary way you can tell how well you're doing as an organization. Lots of jobs in accounting. You will be sitting in a desk 8 hours a day, and it is a lot of numbers, a lot of processing. So if you're that kind of person that's analytical, that likes, you know what I mean, working with numbers, and our accountant is that kind of person, then that would be a good career choice for you. You can become a CPA, a certified public accountant, and those people make even more money. Okay, a lot of jobs in the banking industry. Okay, and again, this is one of those positions where you could start off just as a teller and work your way up into management if you have a BBA. Typically, higher ups in banks do have MBAs, and so if you wanted to, you know, become an administrator in a bank, you'd probably need to get an MBA. So there's all kinds of different banking positions. You can work on mortgage loans. You can do commercial banking, that's lending to businesses. You can be a teller. You can be a personal finance manager. So there's all kinds of jobs available, and there's lots of banks out there. So there's lots of, you know what I mean, available jobs. There's other jobs in banks too. And so I just met with the public relations person for the Washington State Employee Credit Union. And they were going to sponsor one of our events we were holding, but she was the public relations manager. So she did all the PR, and under her was a social media and marketing person. And so those positions exist in banks too. Okay, an equity trader, and this is working on the stock market, okay? Typically equity traders are very high energy folks. It is a very stressful job. And it's something that you have to be up at 4 o'clock, depending on where you're at, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every day. And you basically live and breathe with the stock market. Very lucrative position, extremely stressful. Typically, you don't necessarily have to work on Wall Street. You can work in any state, but you just have to be up with the stock market. And you'll be buying and selling and monitoring stocks as the day goes on. It can be interesting, and if you're interested in, you know, if you're a gambler, then this could be the job for you, because it is definitely like high-end gambling. There's controllers, and so controllers are sort of like accountants, but they basically control the entire finances of an organization. If you're talking about a really large company, then you're talking about someone that's just under the chief financial officer or the CFO, and so the controller has accountants under them. They make sure that all of the finances are in order for the organization. Again, this can be a very lucrative position. At the same time, it is very analytical. It's very numbers oriented. So if you're that kind of person, you could start off as an accountant and become a controller. And it's a very lucrative position. And something that every business has is, you know, it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in, except for smaller businesses. Most, you know, businesses have an accountant. And then lastly is an investment analyst, very similar to a financial analyst. Investment analysts work more closely with individuals in personal finance. Any questions about any of those career categories in finance? Okay, education. So this is something that I've done. I was a professor for 7 years at a local college in Honolulu. And really enjoyed my time there. It is a fun thing to do, teach. You do have to, you know what I mean, practice public speaking, and that's something that I had to overcome as a young teacher. So these are some of the categories and jobs you can get in education in relation to your business degree. So there are teachers in high school that have business degrees, and they teach accounting, they teach general finance, things like that, in general business classes. States vary from it varies from state to state in regards to requirements to become a high school teacher. Typically, you need a bachelor's degree, and then you need some sort of teaching certificate, and you do usually start off as an assistant teacher, and then you become a regular teacher. To be really upfront, teachers don't make that much money, and even the professors you have, they make less than you think they do. But a high school teacher, depending on the state, they don't really make that much money, and hopefully that'll change in the future. Positives of teaching high school is you get a lot of time off, a lot of paid time off. And so if you're a person that enjoys, outdoor activities or has a hobby they really like to pursue, that's a great career for you, because you get the summers off, you get 2 weeks at Christmas, you get all these holidays. And so that's really good. And it's also obviously rewarding in terms of helping people, learn. Professors in college. And so there's definitely different categories of business professors. And so you have your adjunct or your lecturer positions, and then you have professors that are in a tenure track. Professors that are in a tenure track are actually permanent with the college typically, whereas adjuncts work class to class. Most colleges require at least a master's degree. And so an MBA would probably be the way to go if you wanted to become a college professor. If you wanted to become a tenure track professor at a larger university, then you would need to get a PhD in business administration or something similar to that. And you really want to focus on a specific area of expertise. It is a very competitive market, and so it's difficult to get these jobs. A lot of people are competing for them. And if you did get a tenure track position teaching business, it's rewarding. It's also, if you're tenured, you have job security, which is really nice. And you do get that extra time off too during the summer to pursue your research. The one thing that is I think misunderstood about professors is most tenure track professors do more research than anything. So teaching classes is just a really small portion of their job. The majority of their job is doing research and then meetings, admin stuff, things like that. And so there's a large resource and publication component to becoming a tenure track college professor. Business coach. So a lot of companies hire business coaches. The Washington Center for Women in Business does have a business coach. And this person sits down with small businesses, typically medium to small businesses, and helps them with issues and development things that they may have. In terms, they may be helping them with growth, marketing issues. They may be helping them with cash flow problems, things like that. To be a business coach, typically you'd have to have some 5+ years in management, or have owned your own business at one point. This can be really rewarding when you do actually help businesses, succeed. And it's one of those things where if you really like working one-on-one with people and you find that rewarding, this can be a really great career for you. Sort of along those lines are consultants. Typically consultants are people that have been in industry for, decades plus. It's something you kind of move into. A lot of professors move into consulting, or people that have had higher level management jobs in organizations will move into consulting. And consultants just come into businesses and help them rearrange things, improve things, overall make the business a better place. A lot of consultants do work with businesses that are struggling. And so that's just a reward component to that, to helping businesses actually get out of that red and into the black and help them succeed. Career and degree counselors. And so surprisingly enough, there are a lot of these jobs out there, especially in universities. And again, typically with a career or degree counselor, you're going to need a master's degree, either in business or in counseling. And it's one of those things where you'd be working, I'm sure some of you are working with career or degree counselors at your university. There are a lot of positions open. It's working with students one-on-one, doing a lot of admin stuff. And it can be a very rewarding career as well. That being said, again, you probably need a master's degree and you'd want to get some early experience. The one thing I do want to touch on before I forget is the experience component to a lot of these jobs, and a lot of jobs require prior experience, and that weighs just as much as the degree you hold. And so getting that experience right now is something that should really be a focus to you. And that can be as simple as looking for internships. I know internships sound really not like a fun thing to do because you're not getting paid typically, but just getting that experience is something that, you know, is really going to be helpful for you to actually get one of these jobs when you do graduate. Okay, so let's talk about the management and administration category. Okay, so one area of really large growth right now is medical field, and that's because the big chunk of the population, baby boomers, are getting older, and they're going to need more medical care and medical attention as they do, you know what I mean, continue to age. Medical administration is a very lucrative career to get into. Typically, you would need some sort of advanced degree, a master's degree in public administration, or an MBA would work also in these. I think there's also specific medical administration master's degrees, and this is working within hospital administration, working with the operations of the hospital, making decisions regarding what the hospital, how the hospital operates, what it, you know what I mean, does on a daily basis, managing people, things like that. So that's, I think this is going to be a high growth potential career in the future that also is very lucrative, pays a lot of money. A lot of college administration positions. And so part of your professor's job is in college administration at the Career Pathways or the Career Development Center there. And so there are a lot of jobs in admin, and that's one of those jobs where you can start off and sort of grow into a position. Again, most college administration in the higher end would require some sort of advanced degree, either an MBA. A really good, if you were considering getting a master's degree, another really good option is to get a master's of education, because that opens the door for a lot of these college administration jobs. It also opens the door for a lot of counseling jobs. It is one of the requirements you'll see on job descriptions a lot. Supply chain management. And so this is typically a job you'll find in larger organizations. And I'm sure everyone has learned about supply chains, but this is, you know, a extremely growing, you know what I mean, concern is actively managing your supply chain because of globalization and because of outsourcing and because we're getting a lot of goods from other countries. And so managing that supply chain and understanding logistics or shipping, how much things are costing. And that's one of the major issues with supply chain management, is keeping costs down. Also, another issue, and if, you know, coming from the Patagonia perspective, is ensuring that your supply chain is doing right socially and environmentally. And that starts off with factories, how the factories are operating, things like that. So it can be an interesting career if you're interested in the logistics, if you're interested in, you know, how things get from point A to point B, and managing, you know what I mean, the inventory that's coming into your business. It's can be an interesting career. Operations management, and this is also typical of larger organizations, and so this could be for manufacturing. Typically, operations managers oversee the production, and they work with supply chain managers to get products in to their stores, and basically the overall operations of all of the stores that they own. Typically, this is indicative of larger organizations that have multiple locations. Corporate executives, and so these are your chief executive officers, your chief marketing officers, your vice presidents of marketing, all these people. And so this is something that you typically need a master's degree for, and you need many, many decades of experience to get in. So in terms of working your way up in an organization, if you have your eyes on this sort of career, then you would start off, you know, at the bottom and work your way up, but you would need that higher degree. And then once you reach a certain level, that's when you can actually go to another company and become an executive in that company, if that makes sense. So you kind of have to get up to a certain level in one company. Once you're up in that company, then you can move to other companies at that level. Store managers, okay? And so again, this can be retail store managers. A lot of store managers do quite well. I think that typical salaries for retail store managers that have, you know, decent companies are between $50,000 and $70,000 a year. Something you'd be working, managing employees, doing some of the, you know, making sure your inventory is on point, just making sure sales goals are hit. That's kind of like the daily stuff you do. if you like working with people and you want to, you want to start off in a retail situation, then the store manager may be the way to go. Once you've hit store manager, then in organizations like Patagonia, you can become a regional manager, and then you manage several stores in that region. And so that would be the next logical step in that chain for building your career. Head buyer. And so buyers are people that buy stuff for organizations. And so most organizations that are, especially in the retail world, have buyers that go out and, see what's out there in terms of product offerings, and then make decisions on what products they want to buy and sell in their stores, how many of those products they want to buy, when they want to buy them. And so this is something that is really, if you're interested in merchandising, and if you're interested in a specific type of category, like fashion or things like that, the head buyer can be an interesting job. The cool thing about being a head buyer is that you actually get to see all the new stuff that comes out. And I've done some buying for organizations, and it's kind of cool to see all the new stuff. And you get to go to the trade shows and see all that, I worked I was a manager of a surf shop for many years. And so we got to go to trade shows and see all the new cool surf things that would come out. And get to have first dibs on new products and things like that. So that's kind of the fun part of being a buyer. Inventory management can kind of, be intersected with the head buying. Inventory managers really work on inventory controls. And this is also a position that's going to be in a larger organization typically. And inventory managers make sure that you have the right amount of inventory on hand. They are in charge of ordering new inventory, making sure inventory is sold, keeping track of where inventory is in its life, so that if it is getting close to the end of its life, that it needs to go on sale. And so that's part of the control. It's a lot of numbers, sort of like an accounting game, but most large organizations do have them. Any questions so far? Okay, moving on to insurance. And so there are a lot of jobs in the insurance industry, okay? One job that is actually very lucrative, and my step cousin is a very successful actuary, and she went to UCLA many, many years ago. She graduated, and she started working as an actuary right away. An actuary basically is someone that calculates risk. And so they look at all the different factors that affect risk in relation to insurance, and they put numbers and rates and ratings to risk in relation to how likely something is about an event is going to happen, and how that can affect how much insurance the company would have to pay out to claims. And so it's very similar to that accounting, where you need to have that numbers mind. There's a lot of really deep thinking that goes into it. Actuaries do make a lot of money. And yeah, my step cousin, at some point, I think she was making $300,000 a year, just doing that. And so it's definitely can be a very lucrative position. Underwriters are people that actually write insurance claims, and so there's a lot of writing. And so they write specific they write insurance policies for specific businesses, specific individuals. So it's a lot of research and a lot of really articulating, how that policy works specifically to that person. And so it's very detail oriented. Underwriters also do make a really good living. In the insurance industry, there's also claims analysts and adjusters. These are people that actually look at claims. So you crash your car, your house catches on fire, you file an insurance claim. These are the people that are looking at those claims and approving them, distributing money, things like that. And then lastly is customer service. And there's a lot of customer service jobs in insurance. Typically, it's one of those jobs you're on the phone a lot with people. It's a good entry level job if you're interested in getting into a specific insurance company and working your way up. Not the most interesting work in the world, but stable. For one, because most people are required or want to have insurance for their house and their car and their everything, and also something that is not going to go away anytime soon. Okay, so marketing. So if you do get a business degree, you can still work in marketing, And so typical marketing jobs include social media marketers, and there's a lot of these jobs out there right now. Some people claim that organizations, especially small businesses, just do their own social media marketing, and that in some cases is true, but in larger organizations, there are very specific social media marketing positions, especially in the fashion industry. In large fashion organizations, you'll have people that just do social media for one specific thing, like jeans. So it can get very, very specific. And so social media marketing can be very fun, and it's something that you do on a daily basis. It's a lot of content. You have to gather a lot of content and create content, and so that can be fun. Market research, and so this is an interesting position. We do have a market researcher at the Thurston EDC, and basically what he does is he dives into what is happening in the market that affects businesses. And so when I work with businesses and I help them write business plans, I make them do a lot of market research to see who the competitors are out there, what are the trends happening in that specific industry, how is the customer base trending? Are you going to have more customers in the future, or are you going to have less customers in the future? What are your customers looking at in terms of their social media? What are your customers paying attention to? This is all parts of market research. And so a very interesting career, and most larger organizations have market researchers, and they are looking in trends in the industry, and they're also looking to identify potential new markets for the organization to tap into. Event coordinator. We do have an event coordinator at the Thurston EDC too. She's awesome. Her name's Holly. And basically what she does is she is in charge of throwing all our big events. And so she has to deal with catering. She has to deal with venues. We just had an event called Alliance Northwest. And that was, I think, 1,000, 1,200 people showed up to that. It was at the fairgrounds there over there in Puyallup. And she coordinated that event. So working with all the vendors, working with speakers, working with, again, with the catering, all that stuff, putting all that together. Can be stressful, but also can be very fun. If you're a people person, this is a great job for you. She's had some very interesting jobs. She was also an event coordinator for the Sundance Film Festival. And she also was the event coordinator for a wine company owned by the lead singer of Tool. So she has had an interesting career path in her event coordination. Copywriters. So copywriters are people that actually write the content you see in social media posts. They write the content you see in product descriptions on the websites. Basically, they write marketing. And so there's a lot of this around. Copywriters also will write PR statements or press releases. Basically, they spend their entire day convincing people through words. And so if you like writing, this is a very stable job for a writer. And it is a marketing job because most copywriters are working on developing posts for social media, like writing the copy for social media, writing the copy for websites, blogs, things like that. Merchandisers. So many retail stores, especially large stores, have visual merchandisers. And these are the people that actually arrange the store. And so they make the store pretty. And there is a science to visual merchandising, and I've done a lot of visual merchandising myself. And so it's interesting. There's a lot of psychological, things you have to think about when you're doing visual merchandising in terms of keeping people in the store. So that can be fun. Also, it's fun to, just if you're creative, if you like to, work on displays, if you like to do art, things like that, then a visual merchandising job is a good choice for you. And most larger retail stores have visual merchandisers. Typically with a merchandiser, you would need a business degree and then maybe potentially a master's degree that is more specific towards merchandising. Another thing I want to talk about really quickly too is if you are thinking about going on into graduate school, one of the things that you really want to focus on is what career you're going to be looking at after, because there are very specific graduate programs that if you take those, it's going to be more likely that you'll be able to get that job that you're going for. And so just coming back to the Patagonia thing, a lot of what Patagonia hires in terms of their corporate people are very specific graduate degree holders in different types of textiles and sustainable textiles, and there's graduate degrees in organic cotton farming, and just all these really interesting, very specific degrees. So if you have an idea of really what you want to do, then I would look at grad school for a very specific degree, and that's going to really help you to be able to, you know what I mean, qualify for that job that you're looking for. Okay, I better hurry up here. Okay, so marketing coordinators. And so these, again, are for larger organizations. They would probably be just under the chief marketing officer or the VP of marketing, and they coordinate all of the marketing for the organization. They're really in charge of the organization's brand message and keeping that organization on their brand message. And so companies like Nike, companies like Patagonia, companies like Vans, they have marketing coordinators that want to keep the organization on their brand message, and so they are in charge of all of the people that are doing that, including the social media people, people that are doing the public relations, people that are doing the advertising, all that stuff. They have to make sure everything's stays on brand message. And then you have your chief marketing officer. That's an executive position. That's going to be the highest level of marketing you can do, and that oversees the entire marketing operations of an organization. And lastly is public relations. And so PR people are really in charge of the way that the organization presents itself to the general public. And so they're the people that work on press releases, people that get these things out to the media. They have a lot of media contacts. They also work closely with the social media marketers to promote events that are coming up, things that are new, products that are coming to market. They're really in charge of getting that information to the public. Okay, moving on to human resources. Okay, so most larger or mid-sized organizations have an HR department, and there's a lot of different types of jobs in human resources. One job is a trainer. So basically, corporate trainers or company trainers go in and they train people on specific topics. One of the big topics in this day and age is inclusion and equity. And so trainers will go in and talk to all of the employees in a training session about increasing inclusion and equity in their organization. And typically trainers will be traveling around a lot, so they'll be going to all the different locations the organization has, the different headquarters, sub-headquarters, things like that. HR specialists are people that deal with all the paperwork that comes along with hiring employees. And so your insurance forms, your tax forms, making sure people read the employee handbook and sign off on it and understand company policy, things like that. HR managers oversee the entire human resource process, and they're in charge of not only making sure that all of the employees are up to date with paperwork and things like that. They're in charge of making sure that employees are happy and they're getting professional development, and that they're being treated well. And when employee management issues do come up, HR is that intervener. I don't know if anybody watches The Office here, but I think Toby may have given HR management a little bit of a negative connotation here, but generally speaking, HR managers are the ones that I've met and worked with are really care about human beings and care about people. Organizational development consultant, and so these are people that go into businesses and help businesses do better by their people, help people be more productive. They help organizations with change in relation to technology, things like that. Typically, organizational development consultants have a lot of experience in a specific industry over time and typically have advanced degrees. Recruiting specialists, and so sites like Indeed, Monster, things like that, they have people that are going out and recruiting on, they're looking at people's, why am I blanking on that right now? They're looking at people's profiles. They're looking at they're headhunting, basically. They're going out and trying to fill positions with people that are definitely qualified for those positions. So they're looking at people's LinkedIn's, They're going out and actively seeking employees for open positions. You have recruiting specialists in-house in larger organizations, or you have specific companies like Indeed and things like that, or in smaller organizations that people hire to go and find employees for them. This is especially true when you're looking for, jobs that require very specific types of qualifications, or very specific types of experience. Okay, so government, non-government organizations, and nonprofits. So the organization I work for is a nonprofit, and so there's a lot of nonprofit management jobs available. We do work on salary typically. That can vary depending on the type of funding that nonprofit is going to get. You have people that work on grants, and I have to do a lot of grant management myself, and so that's working, managing the grant, making sure all the requirements of the grant are met. Grant writing, which can be rewarding but also tedious. That's also there's a lot of grant writing positions within these types of organizations. In terms of working for the government, there are a lot of jobs as auditors. So you go in and make sure people's books are okay, or they're complying to laws, logistics, making sure that the government is getting the right goods at the right time. The United States government is the largest purchaser of goods in the entire world. And so there's a lot of jobs related to, procurement. We actually have a organization that helps people do that in the EDC. Lobbyists, convincing Congress people and senators to do things that you want them to do to help your business. There's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs in the federal government. And typically, business majors do qualify for a lot of those jobs. You get into these jobs, there's a lot of stability with them. There is also a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of, of that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in stability, that's a good place to go. Nonprofit work, on the other hand, is not that stable typically unless you have a grant that's really stable. And so that's something to consider there. Okay, so I'm glad I left myself enough time to talk about this. So the last thing I want to talk about is entrepreneurship, starting your own business. And this is a very, viable, thing for business majors to do once they've graduated from college. Starting your own business definitely has its ups and downs. And so it is not a 30-hour-a-week job. It is a 60 to 70-hour-a-week job for the first 5 years. It takes a lot of work. But if you're doing something that you're passionate about, that can be very rewarding. You're your own boss, which can be good and can be bad because you're in charge of everything. So if anything messes up, you're the one that has to fix it. On the other end, you don't have anybody telling you what to do and how to do it. And so, it definitely takes a specific kind of personality to start a business and have a successful business. You kind of want to have that entrepreneurial spirit. You want to go out there and you have a specific passion, or you have a reason for doing this. That's typically what I tell people that are interested in starting their own businesses, is start off with that why. Why would you want to do this? And not just, you can't be for money. I mean, obviously you start a business to make money, but there's something that has to be deeper in that in order for the business to really be successful. Okay. If you are interested in starting your own business at any point, or learning more about it, then we can support you. And at the THURSTON EDC, we have a lot of different programs. I'll just talk a little bit about what we offer at the Washington Center for Women in Business for Entrepreneurs. And so we are an inclusive organization, so we work with all genders. We do specifically work more with women one-on-one and coaching sessions, but we do have several programs for all genders. This is our Intro to Business course, and so if you're interested in just learning the really basics of you're just maybe thinking about starting a business, this is a free course. It happens every month on the third Wednesday. If you go to our website, wcwb.org, you can look at our calendar and see when the next courses are. There's a webinar course of this. Unfortunately, I just taught it yesterday, so the next one won't be coming up till next month. But this is just a good way to start to understand what it takes to own your own business. And really what I focus a lot on is the business plan portion of owning your own business and starting a business. And then also pointing people in resources. Washington State is actually a really great state to start a business in. Having lived in other states, this is a really small business friendly state. We do have a business enterprise startup training, and this course helps you to write a business plan for a business idea. You need business plans these days to even be considered for any types of lending, from banks, from credit unions, things like that. Also, most investors are interested in seeing a business plan, and so it's almost become an essential document. Also, small businesses that start off with a business plan have much higher success rates than those that don't, just because if you can get your idea down on paper and it's feasible, then more than likely it will actually work. We offer one-on-one coaching also, and so if you are interested in starting a business and learning more, you can come to us. The initial coaching session is free, and then there is a small charge after that. We also have a monthly webinar series called Let's Talk Business, and so if you're interested in specific business topics, we have professionals that speak on those topics, sort of like this. And there's a whole backlog of these webinars on our website, wcwb.org. And so if you want to learn more about nonprofit management or social media marketing or business taxes, all that kind of stuff, you can go to our website and click on one of those backlog webinars. Let me just talk a little bit about what the Thurston Economic Development Council and Center for Business and Innovation offers to the public. And most of these services are free to the public. And they're backed by the federal government. So we do have the Small Business Development Center, and these people are business counselors. They do free business counseling. They're extremely experienced business counselors. And so for businesses that are sort of starting off after the business plan phase, looking for money, working on growing, these people are really good to talk to. They can help you with, all kinds of different issues in terms of, your financials, in terms of marketing, all that kind of good stuff. And that's a free service in Thurston EDC. Again, we're right down the street from you guys in the Lacey South Puget Sound Community College campus. We have our own version of a Shark Tank, and it's called the Thurston Investment Network. And so basically it's 40 Thurston County investors that come together, and they'll hear pitches by people. And hopefully everybody's seen Shark Tank here. And so organizations pitch to them, and then these sharks kind of go in and ask the tough questions, and then decide if they want to invest in. And these people are really actually interested in investing locally. And we've had millions of dollars of investment to go through this network already. And it's odd because there's actually a shortage of people that are pitching. Typically, they want to see higher growth potential companies. And so if you have an idea for a really high growth company, this is a great place that you could go to maybe potentially get capital to grow your business. We had two younger culinary students who came up with a ground beef and infused ground beef vegetable product. And so it basically was a serving of vegetables in this grass-fed beef. And they actually got funded recently to move on with their project. We have the Procurement Training Assistance Center. And this center helps organizations contract with city, state, and federal governments. Again, the federal government is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. And so these people help you navigate that process. Again, free service. We have the Lacey Makerspace, and that is actually on your campus at St. Martin. And the Lacey Makerspace is basically an inventor's workshop. And so that you can go in there, you can learn to do 3D printing, you can learn to do prototyping, there's laser cutters, all kinds of cool stuff, sewing machines, and there's classes on how to use this stuff too. And so if you're interested in creating a specific product, inventing something, then you can go in there and use all of this, pretty expensive equipment for free to start off with that product and prototype something. And so that's a really great, and we do have some legal support around patents and things like that too at our center. So if you do get, something that you're trying to invent, you can come to us and we can help you with, we can get you hooked up with a patent attorney for free. We do have scale-up training at the Thurston EDC, and this is for organizations that have been in business for a while already. And this helps them to grow. And then lastly, we have, and again, all of these services are free. Yeah. Lastly, we have the SCORE program, and this is a business mentorship program. And so if you're just starting off, you're interested in getting into business in a specific area and not quite sure exactly what to do, the SCORE members are actually retired business people that have very specific industry experience, and they will sit down with you and talk to you and mentor you through processes. A great program if you're just looking to start off in an area. We have 3 or 4 SCORE representatives that meet in our office. You can also tap into the entire SCORE network nationwide. I think there's 1,200 mentors, and you'll definitely find, you know, the mentor that maybe in your specific area of interest. One of the people that works in the Thurston EDC is Jim Greenfield, and his expertise is nonprofit management. He's had, you know, 30, 40 years of experience in nonprofit management. So interested in nonprofit work or starting a nonprofit, you can come talk to Jim for free, and he can kind of guide you through that process. So I've left a few minutes here for questions. Can I get any questions from the audience? Any concerns, specifics?
I have a question, actually. Sure. It was actually regarding the human resources slide that you were talking about. The recruiting specialists, I actually just was kind of curious if that position is sort of going to be changing because of websites and services like Indeed or Glassdoor. Do you think that recruiting specialists will, I guess, sort of disappear? Or is it still like a decent career path?
I think that, yeah, I think you're talking about like organizations, so like organizations like Zillow, larger organizations, they have recruiting specialists in-house. And so those will be part of the HR department that will continue to go on. And then also, you know, you can go and work for Indeed and places like that as one of those specialists. Smaller companies, yeah, maybe, you know, might be going the way of the dinosaur, unfortunately, in that area. But that being said, you know, there's definitely still a lot out there. And I think the issue is, especially with some of these companies like Patagonia, you just get too many applications. And so they do a lot more of active looking for employees to fill positions before they actually advertise jobs, because it's just, you get too many applications and it's just too hard to manage. So it's, you know, like they'll go out and they'll network and they'll try to see if there's somebody out there that fits the position before they actually advertise it. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah.
Good. Any more questions? Amanda, do you see any questions through the chat function?
There are no questions in the chat function.
Okay. Okay, well, if no one has any more questions, and if you do have a question that comes up, you can always contact me at the Thurston EDC. Again, we're right down the street from you. If any of you are actually interested in starting a small business or a mid-sized business, we have a lot of resources that are free that a lot of people don't know about. And so it's a really great place to start to explore the idea of entrepreneurship. Or if you just have questions in general, yeah, you can always come and pop in and check me out. I'm there all day, every day, except for now. Probably won't be there for a little while, but yeah. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening to me. Hopefully some of that wasn't too boring, but definitely wanted to make sure you got all the information you could so that you can start to think about that career path. The earlier you start thinking about it and, you know what I mean, focus on a specific career path, the less likely you are to flounder around like I did for 10 years. And so it's, you know, it's never too early to start to think about what you want to do after college. And unfortunately, as they unfortunately have advertised, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to get handed a job as soon as you get your degree. It's never that easy, and so it does take some planning and some definite, foresight before you get out there into the career world. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you.